So it looks like we're going to war. The UK, the US, and Germany have thrown their entire weight behind, well, not their entire weight, but they've thrown a sufficient amount of weight behind the Ukraine in their war against Russia. So the UK have definitively picked a side in spite of endless campaigns over here not to, and endless pleas from Russian citizens themselves, like just not to do any of this shit anymore. Like the citizens aren't being listened to. At this stage, it's a pissing match between leaders fought by the people at this point. So we're going to war at a time where there are already 1.3 million British children in poverty. The way I see it is this. Russia, I think about 75% of gas or something along those lines, but a really high percentage of our gas comes from Russia. And not only that, Russia is not like Iraq or Syria or any of those countries that Western countries have bombed. Russia is a relatively large country and relatively self-sufficient in comparison to all the other countries that the West have bombed. And in comparison to even our country, Russia is very self-sufficient. They've got all their own resources down there. Russia is one of the largest, has one of the largest stockpiles of gold in the world. So we're already on the losing side, but I think this was planned. Like I said before, this was absolutely planned so that the US, UK, and Germany could lose. Because when you lose as a country, you give yourself time to rebuild. But if you win as a country, then you have to perform the cleanup on top of sustaining your own country. It's happened over and over again, and you have to have the money in order to do that. So I honestly think that the UK will lose, not because of the fighting. I think the West will win the fighting. I think the Ukraine will win the fighting. But I think we will lose in terms of resources. Because remember, most of our gas comes from Russia, right? If we go to war with them, that means we have to make do with less gas. What happens when we make do with less gas? The price of gas goes up. And then, seeing as electricity is powered by gas, the price of electric goes up. So the price of electric goes up, the price of fuel goes up, which means importing and exporting goods is a lot harder to do, and delivering goods is a lot harder to do, which means everything, everything just costs more. So everything will get much, much harder. The shelves are not going to refill as quickly now that we've gone to war. I wouldn't be surprised if rations came next. When it gets to that point where people are living on rations without ever having to, when people are living on rations, that's actually when the general population are actually the most vulnerable, not only to poverty and disease, but also to warfare. Because remember, if a country is on its knees and it has to do without the resources being given to it by the country that it's at war with, then it leaves the people open to attack as well. Because if Britain's down, if the US is down, then what happens? What happens is increased violence, increased crime, increased tribalism, which means increased racism and political divisions. This shit is going to go to hell in a handbasket. This shit is absolutely going to go to hell in a handbasket. I've been saying that this would happen for years. Years. On the fortunate side, the only silver lining in the cloud is that when it comes to non-lethal directed energy weapons, they will be used less frequently. The ones that are battery powered, that need to be operated by battery, yeah, it's likely that they're not going to be used that often. But then what are they going to be replaced with? They're going to be replaced with the more fatal version of these weapons that don't need to be charged as much, that can last for years without a charge. Which means people are going to be dropping like flies out here. Dropping like flies. I'm not scared. That's the thing. That's the thing about it. I'm not scared. I should be. I should be terrified, but there's something that just makes me feel like, no, there's nothing to be scared of here. Nothing for me anyway. I'm a targeted individual. I know how to live in hardship. I've had to deal with financial abuse and emotional abuse and even physical abuse, physical torture. So this is nothing to me as a TI, but I fear the rest of the world going absolutely nuts. People are already going nuts. We haven't even started with this shit yet, and people are already losing their fucking minds. We haven't even started with this yet, and people are already losing their minds. So in a nutshell, we are absolutely fucked. And if you've been involved in gang stalking, understand, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, understand that you caused this to happen. Your betrayal of your family, your betrayal of your community. Remember, all of that was experimentation into weaponry, surveillance, and trauma-based mind control. And it was trauma-based mind control that increasingly got us into war to begin with. One of my TI friends, one of the TIs that I'm friends with, who scanned me for chips and found that there were chips in my body, they'd been in Rwanda and seen that shit in action. A lot of the stuff that we're going through as TIs, the more successful findings is very likely being implemented on the general population. Whatever is the most successful is being implemented on the general population. And that leads to war. That leads to depopulation via the four horsemen. So if you've been involved with this gang stalking shit at all, like, let's just leave personal feelings out of the equation. Let's just leave everybody's personal feelings out of the equation. If you've been a gang stalker and you've been involved in this shit, you were responsible for all of this happening. I warned all of you years ago. All those Twitter rants that people wanted me to go on because they wanted to see whether it got to me or not. Yeah, I told you then. This is exactly what I said to the handlers, the handlers of the perps and the TIs respectively. I said to them, right, what are you prepared to lose? Because unless you're very, very rich, you're in for a rough ride. Unless you're very, very rich. So I'm going to post a link that will give you the breakdown of everything that's happening with Ukraine and Russia and all the rest of it. I said that shit would happen. It's only a matter of time before nukes are brought into the conversation, because Russia don't play that shit. It's only a matter of time before those weapons of mass destruction come out. Not just the directed energy weapons, but also the fucking nukes as well. Because remember, depopulation is the end goal. And the Ukraine, for that matter, has one of the most important ports in the world. So there's that. Why do you think Russia won it? They want the Ukraine for their ports. It's not about like reclaiming the Eastern Bloc or what have you, or Putin defending himself, even though NATO ain't shit either. It's not about him defending himself. The Ukraine has got some of the most important ports in the world. So that's the reason why this war is being fought over. It's got nothing to fucking do with, Russia's glory days or anything like that. It's all about resources. And let's be very, very clear. It's very likely that Russia may not win the battle, but they'll definitely win the fucking war. They may not win. They may, go out of their way to lose in terms of firepower. But when it comes to resources, those motherfuckers will not lose. Let's be clear. And I should be scared, but I'm not. I saw this coming. I saw this shit coming. But doesn't matter that I saw this coming. Does it really matter that I saw it coming? It's not like anybody's going to listen to me. They didn't listen then. Been saying this for years, people didn't listen. So does it really matter that I'm right? I don't think it does. Best thing I can do is just prepare. And the militarization of our culture, it means that a lot of marginalized communities are going to be under threat. It's happening already. So we need to ensure that we are well defended. And I'm sorry to say this, but people who are on the side of peace, people who don't want war, they may be the first to be targeted after targeted individuals. The first people to be targeted may be the ones that are actively speaking out against warfare, because anti-war campaigns have already been hit. Political parties are already distancing themselves. So it's a rough ride. And then you got to remember the four main political parties, they all have a share in the UK as a corporation. They all have a major share in the UK as a corporation, including the Green Party, who are involved with anti-war movements. And the tragedy is that not a lot of anti-war people know that, because as intelligent and as brilliant as a lot of those people are, they don't know the grand scope of what's going on. We're in for a rough ride. Hang tight.